Good evening, YouTubers. Welcome to episode 58 of Shrigleytube TV. We had a great week. Thanks for everybody that's made an effort to comment on the comment section. That's great. I enjoy reading them all. I'm sorry I haven't replied, as always. Just been chaos. I will sit down at some point and try and go through like 100 messages and replies to them all. Anyway, I hope you enjoy what you see this week. It's been quite a good week production-wise. Got all sorts done, and we met some nice people and interviewed them, etc. So hopefully you enjoy what you see, and I will look forward to seeing you all at 7 o'clock next Sunday night. Bye for now. Good morning, YouTubers. It's Monday morning. Thought we'd get stuck straight into this CV8 cylinder head. Now I have got a bit of a soft spot for these heads. I think it's because of my XR3i and RS Turbo days. I did quite a bit with them. Never anything normally aspirated, but I have got a hankering for a Nimbus Grey Mark IV XR3i, which was my first XR3i that I had, and I just when I see one I get very excited. But anyway, I will buy one day when I find one, but they're just getting more and more expensive. So this CVH head, he's asked me to take the valves out. He's supplied some valve guard oil seals, which was always a weak spot on them. They used to go hard and then smoke when you first started them, so I'll put some new valve guide seals on it. The guides are massive on these. They're like 2 inches long because it's such a long valve. So the guides I expect will be mint, and they're not a wear factor on them at all. They're really good in that department. Nice big valves, obviously being a hemispherical chamber. The later heads had a beak in them. They were called the lean burners. And this is a proper early either RS Turbo. In fact, it should have a date stamp on it. Oh yeah, it's a Mark III head. This, it's the 20th of the 2nd, it's the 20th of February 1984, and it's a 1.6, but it's not a crosshatch, which some of them had like a cross hatching on here, and people who used to race them said, oh, they're better. But I never understood why, but apparently the crosshatch was a better head. Anyway, the point of this video is the dowels that line the block up to the head. Here's one I've just got out. These go in here and here, but they should be in the block, and you put the head gasket on them and it centralizes the gasket, and then obviously when that goes onto the head, it's like interference, so the head is always located properly. So quite a nice design, but the problem is they oxidize, the steel does, in the alley. So when you take the head off, they end up stuck in the head, and it's really hard to get them out because you can't really get them from the backside. There's not enough of a shoulder to get a punch on them, you know, and punch them from the back. So many years ago, someone far cleverer than me showed me this little trick when I was working at Bob Jones's. So what I've done is I've tapped it with an old tap there. It's like a M12 or something. So you put the tap in, and then what you do is you turn it over, and I've got this old bit of a 5/16 UNF stud, UNC UNF stud off an imp, and you get the hammer and you just gently tap it, and hopefully, he says, we should see it start to come out. Oh, there it goes. So you can see it was all crusty and corroded in. So what we do next is we just pop him back in a little bit, put the tool back on there. Oh, wind that out a little bit. There you go. And then finish tapping it out from this side. And there we have the dowel, the hollow dowel, completely unharmed. So put that on the wire wheel now, and it's good to go back into the block, and we'll make sure the head's all clean in here so it doesn't happen again. Okay, YouTubers, just got the liners inside Noel's engine, so we'll get that on get that skim next on the milling machine, and then we'll get it ready and get it poured hopefully later in the week. I've got a visitor in the workshop, and he's a right look at him. He's digging in all my treasure. Michael, I've fired up the old YouTube. I thought it might be interesting for some of the viewers to meet the most hated man on the Imp Club Facebook page.
Don't be so silly.
Now, Mick doesn't mean to be offensive. He's just one of them like offensive people.
I'm not offensive at all. I'm a very caring, loving person, and I'm going to show you guys what a proper piece of billet head is.
Look at this.
Right.
What's this you've dug out here, Michael?
See, in my imp days, back in the day, being extremely popular and innovative, not using all these cheesy style cylinder heads. Cast your eyes on that, viewers. See that? That, my friends, is called...
Oh, your valves are going to fall out.
Yeah, I can't show you there. Good.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
Is a
crossflow
head, people. This is it, you see. See, can you see this side?
I'm just waiting for you to. That's the inlet side. Look at the angle on that. It's
now,
like...
Mr. Jones keeps going on about his angles. Look at that, straight down. This little thing, when we get Andy to do some work, because he's always busy. We've actually got some valves in there. I think I paid you for them now.
You paid for 6 of them.
No, I paid for a room.
Yeah, that was 6 of them.
Oh, okay. Look what you're doing to this. What we're going to do, we're going to get his finger out and we're going to get this made. Who's the guy who makes exhaust?
Will Parry.
Parry, that's his face. Weren't he at NEC?
He was.
Right, we'll get Will on to make us a nice exhaust for this and an inlet manifold, and we'll show you what a real Hillman imp engine can do. None of this 100 horsepower job. I'm going to tell you now, this will break on a 1040 or 135 horsepower.
What you get? What 11,000?
The problem is Andy's dyno only goes to 100 horsepower, so he won't be able to calculate proper horsepower.
Turn it in.
Yeah. So there you go. Let me tell you, when it's got the right size lengths, the guy who actually made this, because Jones didn't make it, I had to go and get it made myself, and some guy in wherever made it for me. He calculated all the correct lengths of the exhaust and the inlets, all the size, because I've got some 750 GSXR throttle bodies for this as well. Oh. And he reckoned it would do 150 horsepower.
Really?
If we got the revs up, and he was serious. He did the proper calculation. This is the guy who does the 2,000 horsepower engines for the whatever they are, Nissan engines. Make you know that guy I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Him. Anyway, while we're all on you YouTubers, I must let you know, I absolutely really love imps. Actually, I think they're great little cars, and I'm only having a little bit of fun with you because I know you're a lot of older people there. You know, and you all get a little bit touchy, but I love yous all, especially Ron, Andy. And we've got another guy here, I can't say his name because he's on the police wanted list. But there you go. But there is one guy who keeps popping up on videos. I don't what do you call him? Jersey man. Jersey boy.
Jersey Tim.
Jersey Tim, he thinks he's got my spot. Every time I see him on your video, he's on my video, he's got his hair done, he's looking smart. I'm not happy about it.
Have you been on TV before, Mick?
I'm always on TV. I've been on lots of remakes, been on TV. Very popular film star status, of course. Me and Brad Pitt. And little Tom Cruise. Yeah. So I'm down here. I've just dropped in. I've just dropped in to see the Jones machine. Now I've got something else to tell you guys as well. Any of you imp guys keep going on about this 120 horsepower. You're all talking through your pants. It's not happening. You've got to have something super special for anything above 108 horsepower. That's where this baby comes in. So I've come down to rescue it. And this is going on the bench because we're going to start this soon. I've got to drop a lump of money off to this fella and he's going to kick on with it. I'm
looking forward to that lump of money.
I'll tell you what we could do though. We could start a GoFundMe page, right? And then the winner, once we raise about 10,000 quid, can have the engine.
Flipping it, who's paying the balance?
I'll have to think about that one.
Mick, right. It's been a pleasure having you on Shrigleytube. I hope no one unsubscribes or but yeah, well done, mate. You're a star, and we will get onto your head one day. We're just too busy with other work and paying work and stuff.
All the best, guys. No, serious on that note. Or you keep following Andy. Great videos, and the Hillman boys love yous all to bits, and I'll catch yous again.
Thanks, Mick. Right, okay. You might remember going back to episode 53. I did a conversion where I turned one of these 5-stud Talbot Sunbeam 930 crankshafts. You see they've got the 5 bolts in them opposed to the imp that's got 4 bolts. I turned one so that it had run an imp flywheel. Now the reason I did that was because I've been very lucky in that I've come across some complete new old stock engines. So what I thought I'd do was, because the labour cost is so expensive now to build an engine up, you know, to bore it and skim it and cut the seats and put guides in it, I'm going to be able to offer these at a premium cost to customers as a brand new unit converted. And I wanted an efficient way of making the engine go into the customer's car without any alterations to their car. So obviously with the Talbot Sunbeam, people have modified the crankshaft in the flywheel, sorry, in the past to run with the 930 crank, but you run into different issues with the thrust release bearing, where it sits, etc., because the clutch sticks out further. Because with this being a rear wheel drive application, because this engine, although it's destined for a fire pump, it's actually from a Talbot Sunbeam 1 litre. It's straight off the assembly line basically. Now the idea is that we've modified the crankshaft to run the imp flywheel. The imp flywheel sits in exactly the same place, so all the offsets are correct, and if you've already got a new clutch on your imp engine, you can just put the clutch you've got straight onto the flywheel and you're away. Now these engines are a bit of an odd engine. They're not quite a Talbot Sunbeam engine because they were destined for MOD. They're slightly different in that they don't have a part number on the front of the head, and they run imp sport size valves. Also, if I just open up this bit of paper here, this is what's in the top of each one. So you see it's a Godiva, so it's meant for a pump, 930 high compression standard. So yeah, they're basically it should make you a good 65, you know, horsepower in your little imp with your carbs and manifold, etc. But anyway, I'm getting run away with myself here. What I want to do is step by step each week now, or in the next couple of episodes, I want to convert this, put the crankshaft in that I've machined, put the imp flywheel on it. There's a few other little jobs. We have to fit the starter motor. The holes are slightly different. So this is a pre-engaged starter off a Talbot Sunbeam, and it works absolutely perfect on the imp. It doesn't foul the index diameter is the same. Everything's the same apart from the hole spacing. So it doesn't foul the radiator, etc. in the standard imp, and you just literally join your wires on your solenoid and your bulkhead together and extend the wire down to there, and then you can use the solenoid on there. It's a pre-engaged starter. So what I was going to say was, I've got to re-drill these holes there and there. We'll put an imp bell housing on and re-drill them, and then there's a bit of clearance to do on the back of there's some extra webs on these engines, which I'll go into in a minute. And yeah, we'll get pulling this apart and see what it's like. But it's lovely because obviously I'm on the sales pitch here, but I'm so excited because all the parts I always struggle for, like the chain tensioner guide and brand new cam bearings and brand new cam carriers, all that, new sprockets on the gears, on the crank and all that, I always struggle for all that. And obviously it's absolutely brand spanking new, you know. So yeah, and it comes with a new fuel pump as well, with a heat absorber on it. Look at that, it's got a heat plate on it. So I'll get this on the bench now, and we'll start looking at how we're going to take it apart, because we've got to put an imp sump on it, an imp cam cover, and I'll show you a bracket that I've had made that adapts this. This is an upright front cover. Normally an imp has a big casting here for the engine to hang on, so we've got to make a little bracket for that. So I don't want to disturb that if I can help it. Right, okay, we'll do a little bit more explanation on the conversion from the fire pump or the Talbot Sunbeam engine into the imp. So I've got my pieces in line here, and I've got my two crankshafts and my two flywheels. So to start with, the reason why I think they made the Talbot Sunbeam engine with the crankshaft that stuck out longer or further was because they had more space. It was a rear wheel drive application, so it had a traditional 4-speed gearbox on the back, so it didn't have a space issue. Whereas if you look at the imp, the flywheel, the boss for the end of the crankshaft, it ends just short of the back of the block. But if you can imagine, when they were designing it, they were trying to keep the overall length down because they were going to put it in the, well, it went in the back of a rear engine car, so the less it stuck out the back of the car, the better. So its overall length was important there, whereas in the Talbot Sunbeam it wasn't important. I think that's the reason anyway. So this is obviously a standard imp one with the 4-bolt flange, which takes the imp flywheel, which is this type of flywheel here. This is the Talbot Sunbeam flywheel, which has got the big cavity in the middle, so your imp clutch doesn't actually sit on it. So what people have to do is you have to put an insert into them when they use them as a conversion. Another reason I wanted to stay away from that. What I wanted it so that you just bolted your imp flywheel onto the 930 crank, and you had no other modifications to do. So these are both brand new Talbot Sunbeam crankshafts. This one was a 5 stud and this one is a 5 stud, so I've faced that off basically, and then because if you look, the imp crank is so much shorter by about ½ inch, when I've machined it back, I've recreated that index there. You can see all this on episode 53 of Shrigleytube if you want to see the machining process. And then rather than having that needle roller, which is quite susceptible, I uprated it for a sealed bearing like a modern car because I had the material and the space to do so. So this is the prototype, hence why it's got grey glue in one of the holes. I had to choose the best place to put the new 4 holes because if you look, and I try and zoom in, you can see where it's just encroached into that dowel hole there, it's just encroached there. And the beauty of it is, the imp crank is drilled and tapped all the way through, but the Talbot Sunbeam one is only to about here. So by the time we've faced it off, there's only about another 5mm of offset thread inside there, and then we're into fresh material, so you can, the torque is not an issue to gain when torquing the bolts up. It's all good as gold. So I'm really confident with all this, but I just want to put it in my car before I offer them for sale, and I can almost use it as like a flagship and say, look, come and have a go of my little Husky. If you like the idea of it and it suits you, then you can purchase one, because I've got a few of these now. So what I'm going to do is going to put this crankshaft, the prototype crankshaft, into this block, and basically then the crankshaft will sit at the same offset stuck out as this one, so it'll all work just like an imp, and you can bolt your imp gear on the end. Also, if you look at this engine here, you'll see it's got a hanger. This is an imp engine. This is my offset bore engine, which I'm trying to finish, but basically this little plate here that was made many moons ago goes on the front, so we can use the standard Talbot Sunbeam front housing and just hang the engine on that. So just another bit means we don't have to take the engine to a million pieces, although I do have to take this off to get the crankshaft out. So we're going to strip the engine. Every engine that goes out, I'll be fully stripping down, because even though they're brand new, I just want to make sure there's no grease settled in them anywhere, anything like that. So we'll see what we see inside it in a minute when we pull it apart. Right, okay, we've had a bit of a dilemma. We've had to go in reverse gear. We're going to have to make a new plan here, because I've took the top of the engine off. It's absolutely lovely. I put it on top dead centre, and I thought, you know what? It says high compression on the tag that comes in the top of the head. Let's see how high, what they mean by high compression. So I just CC'd it, and I got like 32 cc's in it, which made it basically about 8.3 to 1 compression, which is absolutely no use for what we want, because the you know, the 930, normally people put an imp sport head on them, and it's if you're not really into the job, it's hard to explain, but these have got a big chamber in them. So if you put an imp sport head on it with a small chamber, you get about 11 to 1 as standard, and that's why everyone loves the 930, because they go like the clappers, you know, with a decent bit of compression. So at 11 to 1 they go well, but that at 8.13 to 1 is going to be quite a very, very friendly sort of, probably designed to run on 2-star fuel back in the day. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to skim some meat off the head to get the compression ratio up, but I've just made a little plan in my head. I thought what I'll do with this one is I'm just going to put this together with the new crankshaft in, as the original plan was, because there will be a market for people who just want a brand new engine that's not touched. They're not fussed about power, it's just to go to the shows in and whatever. And then we'll have to offer another stage where we take the head off and machine it, and I reckon we can have probably a good 60th hour off that without it getting thin, because it's a really good casting. The 930 casting is thick, you know. And then that should bring us up into the 10s, and then it'll be a good engine, and a good powerful engine. So what I'll do now is carry on taking it apart, But I've got to be honest, a bit disappointed. I thought when it said high compression they were going to be at least sort of 10 to 1. But anyway, life is such, we'll carry on. Okay, she's coming apart lovely. One thing I'm just so disappointed in, these lovely brand new head bolts are dry as a bone. Where's the lubrication, guys? I know it was 1978 or whatever when they were built, but come on. I mean, no wonder they used to snap and seize when you came to undo them. Like, imagine that was in a car for 5 years and it did the head gasket and it had to have them out. Not a chance. Anyway, I'll get over that. I'll put some nice molly on them. I think we'll give the whole engine a bit of a once over, make sure everything is correct. Obviously, it's got lovely, nice new camshaft and followers, and the cam carrier's lovely, etc. I've got the head off, and as you can see, if I zoom in, you can still see the bore is like brand new. So yeah, well, obviously it hasn't done anything, so that's why it's brand new. Look at the top there, you see J78, which I think indicates it was 1978. We have also got another year stamp here. That's upside down, but basically it's saying 2nd of the 10th 78. And also, interestingly, because these were MOD spec, these spin-on filter housings, which I'm going to convert to take the Imp Sport oil cooler eventually when I get around to it, they run a 55 psi oil pressure switch, whereas an Imp was always 50. So there's another difference as well. If you're familiar with these, normally the thread, it was just an aluminium thread that you spun the oil filter housing onto. But I'll whiz that off and show you what they have. Is they have a steel insert, so a little bit better again. There's quite a few little differences over the automotive engine, obviously being a fire pump. Now, the head looks wonderful. It's got sport size valves, etc. Obviously, we've come to the conclusion that we're going to have to machine a couple of mil off it, probably 80 thou I reckon, to get it in the 10 to 1 area. But when it is that size, this is a nice shaped chamber. When it is skimmed off, we should get a real nice burn in there. It should be really good because it's all de-shrouded on that side of the inlet valve, just because that's the way it's been cast. Anyway, this is an Imp Sport head. I just thought I'd show you the difference, so you can see how if you use an Imp Sport head on a 930 bottom end, because that's designed for an 875cc engine, and this is obviously 930, so it's bigger capacity. You're squashing the same amount of air into the same size gap as an 875, so you end up with 11 to 1 instead of 10 to 1 like a standard with an 875. So that's why the 930s always go well when you put an Imp head on them. So we might have to do a bit of I'm going to get my website up and running, which is in the making, by the way. I think we'll do like different stages. We'll have a standard stage, a skimmed head stage, which will give it a bit more torque, and then we'll have like a third stage, which will be, say, an Imp Sport head with a bit of fettling and maybe some of the foul seats recut, etc., and things like that, new guides in it. And then yeah, that'd be a good 65-70 horsepower then. Anyway, wonderful. Let's get the sump off and see what we see in there. Okay, something I just forgot to mention was this lovely gasket. Now this is an original Talbot Sunbeam Reints type gasket, and if you look at what we're using now, this is the modern replacement head gasket for an Imp, and you can see where it's all gone wrong straight away, can't you? But the fire rings are very, very thin, whereas on the original type gasket they were a pair of fire rings together. That's quite hard to get that tool in. That's probably why they don't make them like that anymore. But of course it leaves the skin between the pots quite just not as strong, whereas that will be strong. If that's retorqued, that will last indefinitely, no problem at all with the correct antifreeze. So we're hoping that, because I'm just going to bolt this engine straight out together, this gasket will clamp back down again and won't know that it's been disturbed, and we'll retorque it, and it should be good for the eternity of the engine, really. Now, I was just saying before about these spin-on filter housings being different on the Talbot Sunbeam with the steel insert. Can you see it there? This is an Imp Sport one, and you can see it has a slightly different relief valve. It's different size. That's actually got high pressure damps on the top of it. CEP, that's the Carter one. But now you can see the aluminium thread over where this one's just basically the aluminium, the cast, it's had a thread put on it. That one's got a steel insert. Now I particularly like these because I do a lot of oil coolers that are a sandwich plate that go on here, and it's a lot of machining because I have to set it all up to bore it, to tap it, 3/4 UNF or whatever, and then have to buy an insert and loads of messing. Whereas this means I can just make a tube to go on the end, clamp on my oil cooler, and yeah, we're away. So nice to see that. Inside the engine, obviously I spoke to someone at the National weekend about these engines, and he said, oh, they were all ran but not with fuel. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, well, they used to put them on electric dyno, so they couple them up and they'll run them with oil in them just to make sure they got oil pressure and no leaks, but they didn't actually put any fuel, so they were driven by an electric motor, hence why it's got oil in it, and the oil filter's got oil in it as well. So they obviously did a few checks before they sent them out the door. We've got a lovely new oil pump. Obviously this pickup pipe's no good because we've got to put an imp on it. Crank looks good. We'll have a look how that looks in a minute. And something that I've got really excited about is, obviously I can't use the sump because that's the upright sump, but it's got a brand new sump plug that's not been gnarled, because I struggle for things like this, because every sump plug I come across has been mauled by a pair of grips or an adjustable spanner that slips off, and it just looks bad on the engine. So got some nice new ones of those as well now, which is good. Right, I'm in the business end about to remove the crankshaft, and it's all very pleasing. The bearings all look obviously like new, and there's no sign of moisture ingress anywhere. Obviously this, as we discussed, has got the rear oil seal as standard, so we haven't got to modify the blocks to take a rear oil seal. What I did find a bit interesting was the bearings and the bolts. All the imps used to have like a little tab washer, but the Sunbeam 930 doesn't use one on any the mains or the big ends, so obviously dropped that for whatever reason. So yeah, there's no Loctite on anything. I will be obviously retorquing everything to make sure it's all correct when it goes back together. What was particularly pleasing was the chain. Obviously I like the original type chains, but the tensioner blade is absolutely immaculate. So they're nice, because I really struggle for this sort of stuff now, you know, finding decent ones. So that's all good. We'll get the crank swap now and then get it built back up with the imp crankshaft on and the imp flywheel. Good morning, YouTubers. On with the engine still, a little 9:30 this morning. I've had a bit of a sleep on it, so I'll just give you an update on where I'm up to. I've put the standard imp front pulley on now, so that's all the same offsets, everything's correct there. That'll all be in the correct relationship to the water pump housing, etc. Got a nice new oil pump on there, brand new. I've just torqued all the big ends and mains. Everything feels nice. Obviously we've got the new crank in now, which has got the end modified so that it's the same as an imp. I've not done this very well, they can't actually see it, but I will show it you later. So moving on to the cylinder heads, or the cylinder head should I say. This is the 930 head that we worked out the compression ratio is today. So it was 32 cc's total at top dead centre, which gave us 8.26 to 1. And I thought, well, we'll just try it. For what we'll do is we'll put the engine on a dyno before we put it in a husky, and we'll just get a tune out of it and see what it's like. And I was thinking last night, I thought it's going to be absolutely flat as a pancake with no compression, because these engines thrive off compression. So I thought, before we go to the trouble of bolting it together, what I'll do is I'll skim the head and get the compression ratio up. So I've had a measure up of it, and basically I'm going to wedge it. So I'm going to skim it at more of an angle on this side, and then we'll drill the holes and re-spot face. And I'm going to do that because if we skim it, we get the angle better on the inlet port, and also if we take it off this deep side of the chamber, we'll keep the valve seat away from the corner of the head, because it hasn't got massive valve pockets in the pistons. We don't want the valve to start interfering with anything. So we'll take all the material off this side of the head. So I'm going to put like maybe a 60 thou tilt on the head, but we'll go through that in a minute when I skim it. So I did a little calculation, and this is basically 70 by 56. So I just did a dead simple bit of maths and said like 14 divided by 2 obviously is 7 cc's, so I added a 7 to the lower number. It gave me an average of 63 mil diameter. Imagine I'm trying to turn this into a circle just so I can get an idea of where it's going to, what compression ratio it's going to give me. So 63 mil by, I'm hoping to take 2 mil off the face. It'll give me 6 cc's. So it was on 32 cc total combustion chamber. We'll now be on 26. Obviously 32 minus 6 is 26. So the compression ratio is 232, which is the swept volume of a 930cc pot divided by 4. So it's 232 cc's in the pot plus the 26 divided by the 26 gives us basically 10 to 1. So 9.9 to 1, which is where the imp was a standard. So it'll be like a standard imp but with more capacity, sports size valves, and it's got this nice tame cam in it, which is like a Mark II cam, which is what I want to start off with, just to see how it all performs. Because what I'm really looking at with these engines is I'm not looking at making a racer. I'm making something. I want to make something that idles like a nice standard imp, and I want it to have all of its power below sort of 4,500 RPM, so it's a nice drive around town. Because most of these engines will go into road cars, hopefully. And obviously, when they go into a racer, they have cams and bigger valves, etc., and all the biz done to them. But I think they'd be better off as a standard engine. So I'm going to strip this head now, and then we'll join me on the miller, and we'll whiz some material. Before I go any further, sorry, there is some more work I've got to do to the engine. More problems. Now, the sunbeam engine, because it was a rear-wheel drive application, it had a bulkhead here, if you imagine like an engine where it's north-south in the engine bay, not like the imp. So it doesn't have a thermostat housing as such. It had a steel plate on the end, but the wonderful designers at Roots did actually, for whatever reason, drill and tap it, so this can go on in the thermostat housing, sorry, it can go on in exactly the same place. I'm just going to have to machine a little index inside there, because if you look at the imp one, it's got an index for the for the thermostat to sit in, whereas this one doesn't. So what we'll do is we'll clock this up in the forge or chuck, and we'll turn an index in there so that the thermostat sits in, because it's really important that the thermostat on a road car works correctly, because some people take the thermostat out of an imp, and it's just when you, I mean, for racing obviously it's important you take it out, but in a road car it's so important, because the way the system works, you have obviously you have a temp sender in here, or sorry, a temp sender goes in there, and you have a pipe off here which is called your bypass pipe, and then this pipe here goes to your heater. So the cold water comes into the engine, gets heated, and it gets to here, and if the engine's cold, the thermostat's shut, so the hot water then goes off to the front of the heater matrix to warm the passengers up and heat the car. Or if it's summertime and they've got the valve shut in the front and the water can't go down here, it comes out of the bypass hose and back into the water pump. So basically the water is always circulating, because it's really important that an engine, especially an aluminium engine, doesn't get thermally shocked. So in other words, if you had no bypass circuit and the water couldn't go down there, the water would wait in the engine until it got to 70 degrees. The thermostat would open, the cold water would go through, and the engine would be like, ooh, and get a big shock as the cold water goes in. So they keep the water circulating at all the time, either through the bypass valve with the thermostat shut, or through the heater circuit into the matrix to the front of the car. So the thermostat system is really important that it's fitted. Obviously once the thermostat opens, then the water can go through the radiator and be cooled, ready to go back into the pump and then back into the engine again. Now on this head it's a slightly different setup, so we've only got one, we've not got two bosses here, we've only got one, and that will be the bypass hose. And then what I propose to do is I'm going to make a bung for here and put a 5/8 UNF thread in it, so it can take a standard imp temp sender. So that'll be that one and that one dealt with, but we've still got one here that we haven't got on this one, and it has to be on this side of the thermostat, because this is where your hot water will go to your heater matrix. So I'm gonna, there's loads of material here, and in fact the head is absolutely lovely. If you look inside, it's like, well, it is brand new. I'm going to drill and tap in the top of there, and I'm going to put a 90-degree 3/8 BSP elbow on there with a 16mm hose on it, so that will run off to your heater. So it'll just be exactly the same as an imp, basically. So it's the same job, so we're not confusing things with extra T-pieces and stuff. The engine, you'll just plumb it up exactly the same as you would do in an imp. So that's going to get bunged, temp sender, new holes on the top, elbow, heater pipe, thermostat on the back as standard, so that'll go to your radiator, and that'll be your bypass for if you're your heaters shut off in summertime. Right, I think I've got everything out of the way that I wanted to say about that. What I'll do now is I'll go to the miller and we'll start skimming. We'll strip this head and we'll skim it. Right, okay, I'm on the milling machine now with the 930 head to skim it, to get some material off it and increase the compression ratio by shrinking the combustion chamber size. So looking, I just took the valves out of it. It's got lovely seats in it, lovely big seats. Look at that. The seat is actually a 1.3 inlet seat, so 1.3 and 1.125. So we could potentially use these as a bit of a go faster head as well, if we want to, without putting seats into it, which is quite a good thing, because 1.3 inlet valve is a good size inlet for the 1000 or the 1040cc imp. So I was just going to say, look at the short turn on that. It's absolutely shocking. It just wants a nice fettling. I can't leave that like that. So we'll have a bit of a fettling in the ports while we're here as well, because that'll help it produce a bit more horsepower. So what I've done is I've put us on an 80 thou wedge, just 2 hacksaw blades. So if you can imagine, normally when you put an imp on an inverted imp head like this, you end up with it flat. Because I've raised this side by 80 thou, it's now going to take more material off this side than this side, which will keep our valve seat away from the face, and it will remove it off the deep side of the chamber, which is what we want. So I'll set the camera up on some sort of like slow time lapse or whatever, so you can see the material coming off. And if I've got my calculations correct, he says, by the time we've got 2 mil off here, we should have landed on the other side and took a minimum lick off that side. So I'll start machining and then we'll see where we end up. And then after that, what we'll have to do is re-drill all these holes and re-spot face for the head studs, because if you imagine, the head is not going to sit flat now, so these holes are no longer at 90 degrees to the face because we'll have cut it on the angle. So we'll have to do all that and then we can build it back up, get it on dyno, get a tune out of it. Okay, I'm really pleased with that. That's 2.5 mil I got to before we cleaned up on this side. So you can see there's just an edge there that's not cleaned up on the very edge, but there's plenty of land for the gasket to sit on. So we should have a decent compression ratio. We might even be in the 10.5 to 1 area, which will help with the torque and the thermal efficiency of the engine. So I've still got a good bit of land between the oil pressure switch boss and the base of the head, which is important, because I hate it when they're really skimmed into, because when you tighten this up in a taper bung, it's 1/8 NPT, it cracks the head. So there's plenty of material there. Because we've done it on the wedge and we took more off this side than that side, the valve seat is still a country mile away from the edge of the head face, so that's good. A lovely shaped chamber. Obviously I've just looked at an Imp Sport head, and an Imp Sport is much nicer finish than these 930 heads. These are nice machined radius on an Imp Sport head, but this is absolutely awful. So what I'll do is I'll clean these port throats up and we'll get a nice short turn on it, and that will massively improve the airflow. And then we'll run it on the dyno with a Solex carburetor and a Sport exhaust, and I reckon we should see some nice torque out of it. So that's that for now. Still plenty of material on the face, as you can see. I've not gone absolutely crazy, but we'll have to re-drill these holes so they're 90 degrees to the head face, fettle the ports, give it all clean off, and then we'll get it built on the dyno for next week. Okay, YouTubers, I've been joined by John and his misfiring 930cc imp engine. So he's brought this engine down today all the way from Scotland, and we're going to put it on the dyno and find out what's up with it. It's basically, John's going to explain a little bit now. Tell us the problems, John.
Well, ever since we got the car, which we previously knew nothing about, it's run well above 3,000 RPM, but no matter what we did, it misfired and got worse and worse as the revs came down. We thought it was the Solex carburetor, so we rebuilt them 3 times in a row. Made absolutely no difference. So we've come to the conclusion the engine may have a camshaft in it that we're unaware of. Maybe too much valve overlap possibly. So at the end of the day, instead of guessing, we've brought it to you to
You brought it for me to guess.
Yeah, well, we heard you made a good cup of tea, so we thought we'd come down for the cup of tea. And yeah, so we brought it down because going on the dyno, you know, we'll get proper proof of what's right or what's wrong with it. Definitely. And you know, that way, going by your guidance, we'll go further with it or just get another engine. But as I say, it's an unknown quantity. It's got new carburetors on it. We even rebuilt them in case there was something wrong with them, but yeah, still problems.
Brilliant. Sorry, my phone went into low power mode then. I don't know if it's carried on recording. So you've put a brand new Will Parry manifold on it, which looks lovely, and a pair of what look like either new or reconditioned Webers. So what we'll do, I think, as a plan, we'll put it on the dyno, run it up, get it warm, and see how it performs. And then what we'll do is we'll take it apart from there and see if we can suss out what's going on and get some before and after figures.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan. Hopefully it'll have a reasonable horsepower, you never know, but at the end of the day we are expecting, you know, in the short term to get a full race engine built by yourself, so this has only got to make do for the short term. So but we'll see how it gets on.
Brilliant, thanks John. We'll crack on, get it on the dyno. Oops.
Did it work?
Right, we're just on the dyno with John's engine now. All we've done so far is to check the advance on it, which was okay, and balance the carbs a little bit and just play around with the slow running screws. I've got to say it does run very well, John, so I'm not sure where we're going to go from here, but we'll give it a bit of a load up anyway and see what happens. It's only 930cc this, with we think it's got a sport cam in it. It certainly seems behaving like it's got a sport cam. So we'll put a bit of load on. Try and get it at 4,000. Just over 11.8 there at 4, 11.5. Just note that down. 11.5. Roughly about 60 foot-pound torque. So back it off now. 4.5. It's still holding about 60 foot-pound. 5,000. Seven, it's starting to fall off, right, so it's just running out of area. So I think we saw about 10 there at 7, which is about 50 foot-pound. So we'll do a little horsepower calculation, but we'll try and improve on that. We'll just check the colour of the plugs now and have a look over it and see if we can get a few more horsepower for you. Right, okay, we've had a bit of a twiddle with the screws on this engine, and we've tidied the advance curve up a little bit on it. We've got it doing like about between a 10 and 12 degree swing now, so it's running about 35-36 degrees max, and it starts off with about 25, so it's cleaned up the bottom end basically because it had no advance before. We pulled a little bit of fuel out of it because it was definitely a little bit rich. That helped it, and we've actually seen 57 foot-pound torque out of it now. So any words, John, before we run it again?
Well, it's an awful lot cleaner, and you know, idle actually is consistent and not going up and down. As you say, fixing the distributor has stopped it spiraling down the way. And the power figure you've gained surprised me. I never thought it would have as much power as it does, but it's so much smoother and just night and day.
Is it? Great. Well, what I'll say is, it might be a good air day. We'll have a look at what the barometric pressure is, and the dyno does tend to overheat a little bit, so we're not going to get too excited. But I think we could probably say it's a good genuine 70 horsepower. This, and it's, as you've seen, the torque curve is really flat. You know, it starts off at sort of 4.5 and carries all the way through to 6.5 without falling off. But yeah, we'll get it running now, and we'll see what we can see. But before, the first time we ran it, we saw roughly about 11, didn't we? Which was about 57 foot-pound. Sorry, we've seen 12 since then, which is roughly about 63 foot-pound.
It also appears to pick up quicker. I mean, the power comes in more smoothly, and the delivery is really good now.
Yeah, a lot of it is to do with just having that advance off cam or low down has cleaned it up because it's low compression, I'm assuming.
Yes, so, as far as I'm aware, it's pretty much standard in the compression side of things.
What really interests me here is, because the carbs are obviously 28mm chokes in a pair of 40s, if we get it to 4,000, as I close the throttle off to almost like 60%, it still does the torque, so That's wide open. It does roughly 60 foot-pound. That's half throttle. Still doing it.
That's remarkable,
It just
that, isn't it?
The carbs are so clever, aren't they, at giving the fuel? But yeah, they're just big for the probably on a standard port, etc. You know.
They're doing really well self-compensating, as you say. I mean, carbs are just a bit smarter than people give them credit for.
Oh, amazing, amazing things. Right, let's go back to back the dyno off.
Personally, I can't wait to stand here one day and watch a dyno run on the engine you're going to build for me.
Oh yeah, 6,000. We've got 63 there. Still holding on as well. 6.5. Oh, it's starting to fall off. We're just going to run to 7 because we're not sure what big headbolts are in it. But it was still holding like 55 foot-pound there at 7. So yeah, it probably might have made sort of 75 horsepower. This, John.
I think you've made a night and day difference to this engine from the point of view of me driving in the meantime while I'm waiting. So I can only be very grateful for that.
Yeah, no. I'm glad we've actually managed to help with it.
I thought, to be honest, when I brought it down here, you'd be saying, "Oh no, just put it in the bin." So you've worked wonders with it for what you've got to work with there.
Oh, thanks very much. Well, I hope it's good in the car, and we'll look forward to getting your new engine in next year. Cheers. Brilliant. Thanks, John.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, YouTubers, we've got a real treat here. Bergerak's pal, is it TJ? Yeah. Has brought this. I've got a bit of a soft spot for these. My best mate when I was a kid, over the road from him in Sale on Grosvenor Road, there was a bloke who had about 3 of these, and he showed me around one when I was about 10 years old. A Honda S800. It's got like I'd almost say a motorbike engine. It's got like motorbike carbs on it. Is it twin overhead cam, 16 valve? You couldn't. He got a car salesman who couldn't tell me. Right, I'll introduce you first. This is TJ. He's a car salesman. Who'd you work? Well, what's your business?
Dolan Classics.
Dolan
Classics.
Dolan Classics. Yep. Not stolen.
Nope. D
for Dolan. Right. It's just with you being a known associate of this character over here, you know. Anyway, tell us about it, mate. Is it for sale?
It will be eventually. Literally just had a little bit of bonnet work done on it. But I love it. They just drive amazing. They just rev and rev forever.
Do they really?
Yes, they do.
Is it a 4-speed gearbox?
Yes, it is.
Rear-wheel drive?
Yes, it is.
Just look at that engine. That looks to me like it's twin overhead cam. I bet it's 16 valve, even though it's... What year is it?
67. 1967.
67. Yep. Let's have a look inside. Let's open that
Real
door.
nice. Real nice. Somebody's put a little bar in it. All the seats.
Wow.
Just super nice.
Can I afford it? Oh, look at the dashboard. That is cool. This is a Heroes event reveal list. I'll tell Ed about this. Look at that. What's that do?
Keeps the bonnet open.
You're joking.
Nope. Got
it's a hatchback.
Oh, you got your little red here. I think that's actually a later one open. That's official.
Oh, is that the Japanese?
Yeah, could have had.
Mate.
Isn't it cool?
Can we hear it?
Yeah, if it'll start.
If it'll start. Them carbs look like they want a bit of a fettling. A bit of an ultrasonic tank and a good clean. But it's got look at that. Is that an alternator as well? 67, you say?
Yeah.
That is amazing.
You don't even
this is
turn over, it just goes bang.
Oh my word. Mate, that is absolutely sweet as a nut. Let's have a listen to the exhaust note. Give us a blip. Mate, I absolutely love it. Has it got disc brakes as well? It has, hasn't it? Crikey. That's lovely, TJ. Thanks for showing us around. So if anyone wants to buy it, just look on the internet, Google stolen, but what's it called? Dolan. Anything you want to say, Bergerak, before we finish?
Yeah, it's lovely. I'd quite like it, to be honest.
What's this piece of cheese you're working on here?
Oh, look at it. It's lovely. It's been in storage, let's say, for quite a few years. It came from the guy who'd owned it since 1977. So yeah, 2 owners from you.
That's 47 years ago. I mean, maths isn't very good, but that's how old I am. I was born in 77. It actually looks remarkably straight. It does look straight, this Berge.
So I'm just going through it. Got it running now, so it's on the button.
On the button. Crikey. It's not something to show off, mate. not while we've got that lovely Honda behind. You know, crikey.
It's definitely
So you
the other way around with me and him.
It's getting a thorough recommissioning, all new brakes,
All new
cooling
brakes.
system, dizzy rebuild, all the usual stuff, you know.
Make a nice car, that, mate.
Yeah.
Make someone very happy.
It's a good advert for it as well, actually.
And it's a nice 70s colour. Look at that. Your mother wouldn't like it. Crikey, your mother wouldn't like it if you rocked up with a daughter in the car. Crikey, she'd be ringing the police. Right, thanks very much, chaps. Okay, cast your mind back to last week's video if you watched it. We did the liners for the 1200cc engine. So this engine runs with these spacer plates on top. So I've bored through the whole lot, and I've now done my dry build. And when I put the pistons top to the centre, I realised I probably got about 50 thou to play with. So I was going to do sort of 20 thou a piece off the top of the block, and when I've assembled it all, I'll true the liners up and take the rest off the top of the very top of the engine, so we get the pistons to the correct height. Now, before I go any further, I have been here before with this, in that what I'm going to show you next is, it has been documented before, it's just, it always interests me because this was a standard 930 imp engine. So if you imagine it had a cast-in liner, which I've bored out and removed now. So this was the original land that the head gasket sat on. And I've just, whenever I do a chop on a block, I always do like a witness cut. So I'll just put like a couple of 3 thou on at this end, and then we'll run it out. And then I know that my table is a little bit low this end, so we've gone with a couple of 3 thou bit of paper here to bring it up so that I get an even cut. And then once I've got my witness cut and I can see that it's cutting evenly all over the top of the block, I'll then go and take a chop off it. What I was going to show you was, can you see, I don't know if the camera actually shows it that well. There's a good explanation there. So the tip has just touched on there. You see it's even the edge of it's beveled. Probably where I face plated it that. And then it's not even touched the liner at all. It's just started to touch the liner there. Can you see? So it's just touching the liner there. That's all low, that. And the reason for that is the head gasket is, you know, say the head gasket's 1.5 mil thick. The actual firing, the steel bit where it seals the combustion chamber, might be another 10 thou thicker. So it might be like 0.25, you know, thicker around and that puts a lot of pressure on. So over time, the liners sag. So if ever you do a head gasket on an imp, you know, a standard imp, and it's in the car still, skimming the head is great, but what you really need to do is get a flat file. I know it sounds rough as toast, but it's better than nothing, and just run it over the top of the head, the block, very evenly, and you'll see, normally these are like serrated, like that. As in, it's pulled up where the threads are. Now this block had a real easy time, so this was flat. But on an imp block, especially if they've been over torqued, it pulls them up where the threads are. So if you just get a flat file and just gently rub it, just till you get a witness where it starts touching the top of where the liner, where the firing will sit on the head gasket, and then get some, you know, piece of glass or a piece of flat steel and some 240s emery and faceplate the block, you'll give it the best chance of having the correct squish on the firing, and the head gasket's got the best chance of surviving. This is why imps had such a hard time back in the day, you know. People skimmed them and put head gaskets on them and didn't have great success. They didn't retort the heads, etc. Because not in a stretch bolt. So, you know, once the gasket's done 500 miles, it really settles off, and you've got to chase it and pull the head down again to retort the head bolts, so that it keeps that pressure on the firing. Anyway, I'm sure I've been through this about 10 times before, but if you've not heard it before, I just thought I'd try and help you guys out there with the imp head gasket job, because once the bite is correct, they're as good as any other engine. You know, like you can see why a mini engine was so good, because it was just a giant slab of iron, you know. So it didn't have the issue with the liner not having you know, going down. It was all flat, and the fact it was iron, it didn't warp as well when it got hot, which is a massive benefit. Anyway, enough of that for now. Hello, wake up, right? Well done, you've made it through to the end of Shrigleytube. Now, I was telling my friend James Ibbotson that I was struggling a little bit for what I considered to be interesting content, and he said, well, if you like, I will do some footage for you from Snetterton and send it over. So what I'll say now is thanks James, and I hand over to you, our motorsport correspondent, live from Snetterton. See you all next week. Bye for now.
Alright, thanks Andy. Yeah, we're here at Snetterton today, and we're here for the Classic Touring Cars 366. Weather looks good, so yeah, welcome along sports fans. We're going to do a quick pit lane tour and show you what's here and what's about. So, right, where are we? Garage 22. Loads of Sportina, we don't want to see that. We've already had a couple of races. The Imp's doing quite well. Mike Loveland had to sit out one of the races yesterday because he had an oil cooler split, which was a bit of a shame, so he had a bit of a water leak. Adrian Oliver, well known Imp man. See if we can pester him. Adrian, you're live on Shrigleytube. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's getting there. Just checking the oil and a few bits and bobs.
How's the car going? All right.
Yeah, it's running nice.
Good.
Seems to be eating a bit of oil, but
well,
nothing drastic.
That's right. That means there's oil in it.
Yeah, that's it. So
I'm going to try and keep some oil in mine today.
try and keep up with you, and then I've got him giving me grief and beating me now as well. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a busy day out there.
I know.
I really enjoyed it yesterday. It was
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
fantastic.
Nice early finish. We can all get home.
Yeah.
So, right, we'll carry on. Thank you. Try the test. Makes a nice noise. That's about it. Two very nicely prepared Ford Anglias. They're always well put down. Really picked up the pace. We used to be able to keep up with those in the Imps, but we can't anymore. Unless it's wet. Just the Mike Loveland. I think he's all repaired now. So hopefully I'll have a better day today. There's an Irish man over there I think we need to go and talk to. I think he's seen us. Hello, Colin.
Hello, mate.
How are you doing?
I'm living the dream here.
Are you having a good time?
Oh yeah.
Get out of this imp.
Are you confident that Mike's going to?
Oh, Mike will be all right now.
Mike will be okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's even wearing the official merchandise. Look at that. What have you got on the back of your one?
The proof of the pudding is in the eat.
Oh, there we go.
I've already ate the pudding now.
I know. Look at you.
Hey, more shaky like that is. Yeah.
Right, we'll continue our wander. Mike has done himself. Right, a couple more loads of Sportinas. These things we had a good race with them yesterday. Yeah, you had that drive, that was very good. Oh, look at that. There's a real machine. Right, I think it's my turn to take over the camera. Yeah, he doesn't want to do it. Yeah, so Brendan's going very well. He's suddenly found all of his pace, and yeah, he's
The mad Irishman again.
The mad Irishman again, yeah. So yeah, we were having quite a good sort of three-way battle with the Imps yesterday. Adrian, Brendan, and me, and yeah, hopefully some good photos of us all together, and not too much smoke coming out the back. Anyway, I can hear Andy in my ear, so we'll pass back to Andy now, back to the workshop.
Okay, James, thank you very much for the report. Brilliant, that. And we'll save the best bit till last, which is James in his Imp at Mallory Park at some retro rides event that he went to. So turn your volume up. I hope you enjoy. See you all next week. Bye for now.
Bye.